So today we are going to be reading book 21, The Test of the Bow. This is Odysseus. He has returned to his palace and he is going to perform a test to reveal his identity. Now, before we start reading, I just want us to make some connections with things we've already learned to kind of tie everything together. So before we start reading, let's look at some art. This is a watercolor by the artist we've talked about before, Ramar Bearden. And this is an image called Return of Odysseus. We see Penelope here. She's weaving that shroud that she takes apart every night. She's surrounded by suitors, all of these men crowding her. But what people don't see, what Penelope and the men do not see, is this ship sailing in. And so this is Odysseus returning in his ship. This is the same image, same artist, same scene, but now it's a collage. And so instead of being in these cool watercolors, they are now in these more vivid, brighter colors. And it's just really interesting. This is just for us to think about how much those colors change the scene. Going from this dark, cool colors to these warm, bright colors. But so this is the situation with Penelope. She is weaving. She's surrounded by all of these men, but Odysseus is arriving home. Now, book 21, The Test of the Bow, this is where Odysseus is going to reveal his identity. But a couple of things have happened between him arriving at the palace and seeing Argos for the last time and the test of the bow. So the textbook tells us that Odysseus arrives, he sees these suitors, these over 100 men who are trying to marry his wife, and he finds that two of them, Antinous and Eurymachus, are rude and demanding. So he immediately singles out these two. They're kind of the leaders, but they're really rude. They're acting like they're in charge. They're being demanding on Penelope and bossing everyone else around. Now, at the same time, Penelope actually talks to Odysseus. Odysseus is disguised as a beggar. The only person who knows who he is his son, and he has sworn to keep his secret. But Penelope actually talks to Odysseus to see if he's heard anything about her husband, and Odysseus tells her that he has heard that her husband is returning. Now, she doesn't want to be too hopeful because it's been 20 years, but of course, this is what she's been waiting to hear. So she decides to entertain the suitors with a contest. She gets Odysseus's bow out. If we remember from his origin story, he was the only person who could string that bow. And she tells the suitors that anyone who can string the bow and shoot it through 12 axe handles, anyone who can do that will get to marry her. Now, real fast before we start reading the test of the bow, just want to point out some things in the graphic novel. So once Odysseus arrives, he's just trying to rest. This suitor threatens him, tells him he's sitting in his place. Irony being that it's Odysseus' house, so the whole house is Odysseus' place, but no one knows who he is. This suitor, who is one of either Antinous or Eurymachus, says, "Oh, cool, here's our entertainment. These two are going to fight." So Odysseus fights this big guy, and who do you think wins? Well, Odysseus wins. So he kind of gets the respect of the suitors by fighting this big guy. They're like, "Whoa, who is this beggar? He's like something special. He can punch people." So the other suitors kind of respect him. And he warns them, he's like, you know what? You should probably leave. If you keep on acting like this, there's going to be a catastrophe, because he's planning to get them. Then Telemachus is like, okay, let's hide all the weapons. Eurycleia, who is sort of the head maid, the head servant, they tell her to, she needs to get the maids busy so they can hide all the weapons. They're hiding the weapons because Odysseus is planning to, pay back all the suitors. So there should be no weapons out. The maids are being rude to him. Penelope is like, "Don't you dare talk to him that way." And then he gets to talk to Penelope. She asks him if he has ever heard of her husband. He is able to describe what Odysseus wore the day Odysseus left. because he is Odysseus. Okay. But then he's like, your husband is near. He's near at hand. He's almost here. Now this is dramatic irony because this is Odysseus, but he is disguised, all of these things. So even though Penelope is like distraught, she doesn't think Odysseus is going to be back, she's strangely comforted by this beggar who is Odysseus. And so she asks Eurycleia, the head servant, the nurse, to prepare him a comfortable bed and to bathe his feet. So now, while she is bathing his feet, she sees a scar. And that's the scar from the boar hunt. So she recognizes, okay, so much like Argos, who was able to see through the disguise, Eurycleia sees through the disguise and realizes who Odysseus is. But Odysseus says, shh, no one can know of me until I have killed all who dishonor my house. He's like, we have to keep this a secret. So she's going to keep his secret. He tells Penelope again, he interprets the dream. Her husband is coming home. He gives her the idea for this test. Okay. And then they go to sleep. Athena talks to Odysseus, gives him courage. And then the next day is when they will do this test, the test of the bow. So they're going to see if any of these rude suitors can string Odysseus's bow, shoot an arrow through 12 axe handles, and if so, then he will get to marry Penelope.